Hi, I am Victoria Gomez and I'm going to present you my evidence number 2 of ecology and geography. First, we are going to see the definitions of some concepts of ecology and geography. Geography helps to comprehend how the earth works and the reasons for all phenomena happening in your community and in the whole world. Physical geography deals with the studies of natural phenomena, that is, those not involved with human activity such as hurricanes, earthquakes, tsunamis, storms, or tornadoes. It supports on other sciences such as orography, which is the study of land reliefs, for example, the mountains and their structure, from and their origin. The hydrology, which deals with the surface continental water and groundwater. Then we have human geography that studies societies and how the occupation of territory affects them and the environment. It supports some sciences such as anthropology and ethnography, which examines the cultural characteristics of a society, including its distribution. Then we have biological geography. Its field of study is the flora and fauna distribution and their relationship with the environment in which they are present. Then we have geographical facts. There are permanent elements on Earth's crust such as seas, rivers, forests, mountains, cities, and the climate. Then natural landscapes. That is the one that has not been modified by human action. Then the cultural landscapes is the one that has been created or changed by people in order to adapt it to their needs. Then what is population? It has to do with human population, which is not distributed uniformly, rather influenced by the water availability, the kindness of the climate, and the existence of natural resources. Why the concept of demographic density is analyzed, which is the ratio between population and surface. Production is the objective is to transform those resources given by nature into satisfiers for all of us. For instance, to produce coats from animals, pets, or a delicious bread from a series of grains. Then we have communications. Since the adaptation of human groups to the landscape, communication became necessary to exchange goods, people, and products, modifying in a way the natural landscape. Then we have geographical sciences, that is the events or phenomena you see in your everyday life, either a hurricane, a volcanic eruption, or people's migration. Methodological principles, they help to explain the phenomena that occurs on Earth's surface. Like location, all geographical events occur in a determined location of space. So these principles helps you to locate where they happened, and they use altitude, the longitude, and the altitude. Causality, it identifies the causes or the events that trigger or determine phenomenon or event and their consequences, and it answers the questions how and why does it happen. For example, the explanation on how a hurricane is formed. Then we have relation. It refers to the existing coordination between geographical phenomena and social and biological events that happen in a place. For example, it explains the influence that a mountain has on the flora and fauna that lives on it. Then we have generality, that it establishes the identification and comparison of the events and phenomenon development in space and time, and answers the question when and where does it happen. Then evolution, it studies the transformation that the geographical events and phenomenon. For example, it studies the physical changes of mountains and landscapes. The next concept is geographical references, which are imaginary spots, lines, and circles that represent the terrestrial axis, the hemispheres, the poles, the equator, the parallels, and the meridians. Then we have geographical phenomena that are temporary processes occurring on Earth's surface. including cyclones, rains, volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, wildfires, and street demonstrations. Then we have cartography, that is a science used to create maps to geographically represent a place. It is a way to visualize the geographical phenomena and events that the Earth's surface present. Then we have maps. Maps are plain representations that show on Earth and address the general aspects of the area through symbols. Then we have the moon. The moon it is the Earth's only natural satellite, a sphere composed by heavy chemical elements such as aluminum, calcium, iron, magnesium, silicon, and others. And the moon has different phases during the time. The new moon appears every 29 days when the cycle starts, and is when the sun and the moon rise are in the same day and at the same time. Then the first quarter is when the moon appears illuminated on its right side. It is located 90 degrees in relation to the sun, and down occurs 6 hours before the moon rise. Then the full moon is when the sun, the moon, and the earth are directly aligned. The moon looks totally illuminated, and there is a 12-hour difference between the sun and moon rises. Then the last quarter is when it is located 270 degrees considering the sun position. The left half is illuminated, and the moon rises first than the sunrise. Then we have tidal ellipse, is when our Earth is spinning in space and is not completely vertical, but it has an inclination on its own axis. Then the Earth has two movements. The first one is rotational movement, is when the Earth moves around the polar axis following west to east direction, and this causes the sun to rise on the east, the orient, and to set on the west, the occident. The next movement is a revolutionary movement, follows an elliptical orbit around the Sol. The whole loop is completely in 365 days, 5 hours, and 1480 minutes. Then we are going to talk about the layers of Earth. The research into the layers structure of Earth is carried out mainly through the study of seismic waves propagation, which behave differently if they travel either in liquid or solid media. And those layers are the nucleus, internal nucleus, external nucleus, the mantle, the crust, and the lithosphere. Now that we are talking about Earth, we are going to talk about its atmosphere. It is a gaseous layer that surrounds the Earth and is considered the outermost layer of Earth's structure. Within it, the phenomena of climate occurs. The climate is the average weather in a place over many years, and it takes hundreds, thousands, even millions of years to change. And weather makes reference to the momentary meteorological conditions that exist in. Then, what is meteorology? It's the branch of geography that studies the physical laws related to the climate condition by analyzing the variables involved in allow you to comprehend how climate works. Then, meteorological phenomena are those changes that atmosphere experiments like temperature, wind, humidity, and rain. Now let's go to the next part, that is the concepts of ecology. The hydrosphere is considered also a layer of Earth's structure which covers 70% of the entire planet's surface. Then physical-chemical properties, it can be found in 3 different states of matter at the same time on Earth's surface: solid, liquid, and gaseous. Then, what is anthropology? It helps us to see the evolution of the human being both biologically and culturally, its religion, language, or traditions. Then, demography helps us to understand the characteristics of a society, geographical distribution, immigration, emigration, and birth or death rates. Then history helps us to know which events occurred to our ancestors, for example, the wars that happened in a certain region. Then economy studies the products and services that meet our needs, such as technology consumption. Then political science analyzes the power of certain social groups for making decisions and achieving their goals. Then ecology is a science that studies living beings and their relationships with the environment, meaning with their habit. What is environment? Is the global systems consisting of natural and artificial elements of physical, biological, chemical, and sociocultural nature, constantly modified by human or nature action, and that governs the existence and development of life. Then population is a group of organisms of the same species occupying a given area and performing genes exchange. Then emergent properties are individuals who conform them do not because the fact of the populations are groups of individuals, they live in a place together. And now we are going to see two types of things how to regulate population in the emergent properties. The first one is abiotic, that prevents populations from overgrowing, either reducing their reproductive capacity or dying. These abiotic conditions can be intense and are considered natural disasters because they have drastic effects on populations. Some examples include fires, hurricanes, earthquakes, floods, landslides, ice, among others. Then, biotic, there are factors that regulate the size of populations, allow population growth when population density is low, and limit when it is high. This type is called density dependent factor. Communities are a set of populations of different species that interact and share a common point in space. Finally, habit is a place of appropriate conditions for life of organisms. Now that we have already said all the concepts, we are going to talk about how is the relation between these two branches. The relationship between geography and ecology is that helps us to understand how is the relationship with the earth, the living beings that live on it, the phenomena, the communities, and the environment. Then the relationship with physical geography is that comprises several elements like natural and cultural landscapes, the climate as the weather, the hydrosphere that has the continental and oceanic waters, the flora and fauna that is a part of our environment, and finally the soil and its substrates. Then the human geography studies population and how they affect the environment, and their most important sciences are anthropology, demography, history, economy, and political science. The biological geography studies the flora and fauna and its relationship with the environment. For example, the branch of ecology that explains how is structured the emergent properties in the communities with the habitat and they saw with nature through abiotic and biotic properties. Geographical facts are related to the hydrosphere or the physiochemical properties that are permanent elements. Then we have production transforms nature resources from the environment into satisfiers, and everything is for the population determined place, marketed through communication. Then the geographical science and the demography are similar. Both studies what is happening like the migration. The difference is that geographical sciences studies everything in general and demography studies the society. Then the methodological principles studies the phenomena that occurs in our planet that can affect our environment. For example, it studies the geographical references and it uses the cartography that has maps on it. Believe it or not, the moon affects the way that Earth works. For example, it affects the movement of our hydrosphere and also the tidal ellipse, the rotational and revolutionary movement that affects our planet. If they were different, it will completely change the Earth's temperature, changing the climate, the weather, the environment, and the ecology. We also have the hydrosphere, that is one of our Earth's layers that covers 70% of the entire planet's surface. Now we are going to see that the atmosphere, the climate, the weather, the meteorology and meteorological phenomena are all related to our environment and to the communities, because all the natural phenomena will decide the survival of all species.